times where the meat would stay cool. And then and they actually turned these places that where we had that into forts, military forts, because they starved us out. That was part.
There was one right next to Port Nola.
Go ahead.
Port Nola was like, because we was sending food from there to the islands, right? Because our big mama used to send the island big mamas care packages when the family would take trips down there. We would go to Jamaica just like people get married. Oh man, what you want to do for your honeymoon? I want to go to Jamaica. We was doing that back then, but we didn't go so disrespectful. We came bearing gifts. And then the people in the island would send us back home with gifts for our big mama. Take big mama this. All of the stuff we don't make up here. She might give her a year's supply of plantain pies. We don't grow plantains up here. You know, but it was a courtesy in the communication across tribes that was cut off by the wars of colonization. That's why we never had wars with each other over here. If we had a problem, run that fade, nigga. From the chief to the brave, run that fade. I'm not finna bring my whole family and get them in this, and you ain't finna bring yours either. That's disrespectful on either one of our half. Now they drag the whole family in it. Hatfields and McCoys in this mofo.
Now, another thing about the reverse theory and how they reversed our culture. Now, we had certain things that were considered not over here as evil, like the serpent. Other animals, like the serpent, they got that labeled as evil, but it's different things that, like even the black cat. It's different things that they got, and they reversed it around to even certain like the cultural things that we did. What was the benefits of them reversing our good stuff that we did to now we won't even mess with it? Like certain things, like
right. So that's a psychological tactic to place a barrier of fear where you don't want somebody to go. The barrier of fear is given in the words of deliberate misinterpretation of the meaning of a thing. If you can get the person to think that something that's empowering is evil, they perpetually refuse to empower themselves by the method designed by their own. And the church is the number one source of the fear campaign of the tribal cultures by calling all of the tribal cultures evil. Right? That's because if you go back to your culture, that which the church sees as evil will allow you to live. Right? So they separate you from your culture and give you a false identity. Now you suffering from an identity crisis trying to assimilate an uncomfortable identity. By accepting what they told you is the truth without investigation or examination. No critical thinking applied. Blind faith. Once you accept the misidentification, you become misidentified within your own self. The whole goal is to get you to put the spell on yourself so they don't suffer the consequences of the karma.
Right. So people like our doctors, like Dr. Savy, he got labeled as a witch doctor under the Spanish Inquisition. He a witch. But then they doctor like Dr. Fauci, he can go on and say all this stuff and giggle and laugh.
He's a scientist.
Yeah, he a scientist. He know what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? If you speak out against him, you know, you going down. You going down.
Right. Because Dr. Savy primarily taught by word of mouth. Oral tradition, education passed directly from the mouth of the master to his prime students. The exceptional student is the student that don't sit up under the feet of the master and just watch the students learn and also pick up the information as the wisdom roll from the mouth of the master. Normally the master's a mother.
So how do we reverse, how do we start to reverse all of this? I got my ideas, but what's your perspective on how we start to reverse this with the children? Because we got to cut this off right now. All the lies that they told us, Christopher Columbus discovered America, we this and that, y'all from, and then they look, even if we try to go out of space, you know what, we got tired of, we say, you know what, we tired of y'all, everywhere we go, y'all got to make us black. So we would, you know, as black Nubians, we're going to get the hell out of here and go out of space. You know what they told us? They said, before you go out of space, you got to be black, extraterrestrials now. You can't go out of space without being black. They got to put some, they black on us. They got a black asses.
I don't know if they told them that or not. But I do know that melanin is an asset when you outside of the atmosphere of the earth.
Go ahead.
Right. And there's also unmelanated beings that come from outside of the earth. Now, everybody can't get through the Van Allen belt. Exit or entry. That's called a Pleiadian light lock. It's a conjure from the Galactic Council to trap those at war in the confines of the war zone. This is what they keep calling the firmament and the dome. But it's just a radiation barrier, and the radiation is so thick, as soon as you hit it, it's an instant reaction. Right? And it's a light conjure using beams and rays of light at angles and octaves. That the Pleiadians is the masters of. Right? And then the Arcturians is giving them an energetic support. So they the ones that got us locked in the matrix to solve the problems of the matrix. So we come in, we like a computer virus repair program into the matrix to repair the damage done in the matrix by a virus. The virus in this case is those who don't belong here. So as the antibodies of Earth, the Earthborn formulate a plan and establish a system in order to reclaim Earth from whatever the threat is. The T cells that organizes the immunal responses and tell the white cells what to attack, right? As the foreign agent. Now, the T cells are also called the generals of the immune system. So now we're talking warfare on Earth played out like an antibody response in the body. Comparative analysis, as above, so below, as within, so without. You can see it play out in the stars, on the Earth, or in the body. But you have to know how to read the signs in order to translate it and do the comparative analysis to see two things that you originally thought was totally unrelated was directly connected. Because you didn't know how to flip the mirror and see it. The mirror is where they got us disoriented at. They gave us south and told us it was down, and they gave us north and told us it was up, and it's exactly the opposite. They used the pole shift phenomenon in order to shake us up and confuse us like we spinning on the top. Right? Once you start looking at south is down, your orientation is in the opposite direction of its intended purpose. Right? They want you to keep looking at the sky so you can't never understand what you're seeing on the ground. So you focus on what's in front of you before you start looking up for answers.
And that makes sense, Rod, because they told when they came, when these black conquistadors came with they Roman Catholic Christianity, they told us we'll get our pie in the sky. And really our pie is reverse in the reverse. Our pie is really down here, because if we could get our pie in the sky, why would the Anunnakis come down from the sky, coming down to get some pie? They came here to get the pie. They came here looking for gold. So so why we got to go in the sky to get our pie when they came here looking for pie?
It's an inversion principle, right? If hell is hot, right, and they got you looking for your pie in the sky, they sending you to the sun, right? because they don't want you to turn back to mama, because she gonna nurture you and nurse you back to health. No matter how old you is or how sick you be, if she here, she gonna nurse you. This goes back to the symbolism of the Black Madonna and child, the mother holding the child, the son. He's the crown prince. And she's the nurturer who's going to nurture him and teach him everything he need to know how to reclaim the throne by learning how to read what his uncle did and what his daddy did and the difference in the two by comparative analysis.
Hey, now that makes sense, because now this is another thing. This probably be all talking, but people was asking questions about this. Some dude was saying about government look like it's still in business as usual. When we touched on this a little bit about how they using the wag the dog thing at the Tyler Perry studios. Could you talk just a little bit on that? Because I got a whole bunch of questions on that recently, even after we did the show talking about it a little bit. About them doing the reenactment.
If you call somebody in DC that goes down around them buildings and ask them if they all fenced in. They've been fenced in since 2020. They're not using them buildings, and construction's been going on at the Capitol building. So they're not having Senate hearings there. And they have sets, Hollywood sets. You can find these images on Google where you can see through the crack in the wall outside. Right? When you look through Joe Biden's window, it's not the scenery that you would see from any of the other White House pictures. It's got props behind it. We gotta pay attention to them little subtleties, tell you that they in studios. They even have video where the camera is drawing back from them and you can see the stage information at the top of the set. They deliberately make those mistakes so they can absolve themselves and say they should have knew it was fake. We gave them every opportunity. We changed Joe Biden at least 12 times in their face and they never noticed it. We've used multiple actors, Jim Carrey, James Woods, Liam Neeson. We didn't use a whole bunch of different ones. We even used one that was damn near 7 feet tall and they still didn't notice. None of them look like Joe Biden did in 2016. None of them got that tattoo on their left arm. Come on, man. They play too much.
Yeah, they really starting to lose their footage, man, on people like running these games and this magical illusion on people. People say, man, people seeing right through this stuff now. It seems like, especially the kids. Hey, this is my next question I got for you. Now, I saw a guy, man, driving the other day, and then I get up on side of him, and he got his steering wheel on the other side, you know, and them cars that come from over there, they drive on the other side, the right side, right? And we drive on the left over here. And I noticed that even the language that is reversed over here than it is over there. Do you think that the language was the way it is now, going left to right, or left? Which one was first, or was it both? Dealing with the polarities of the hemispheres of the planet or the hemispheres of the brain? Is that got something to do with it? Could you go in on that, the language thing?
Yeah, so you know what the prime meridian is, right? Also known as the international date line.
Go ahead.
Right, that's what's called the division point. Remember, when the hieroglyphics can be read right to left to right, top to bottom, bottom to top. That means it can tell you a story from every different angle. When they reduced the hieroglyphics to letter writing, the letters was charged with a frequency, a number, and a musical note, right? And a color. And then now you see that no matter what language, when you go to one side of the prime meridian, they reading from right to left. And when you go to the other side, they reading left to right. That's generalization because you do have right to left on both sides of the prime meridian, but the primary largest number is separated by that line, which is the confounding of the languages so that the people can't come together and solve the problems of Earth. Earth is the original heaven. When they be describing heaven, they be describing Earth before the wars. That's where they get the whole heavenly description from. And heaven just means a haven, a safe place, right? And then the safe place was always nurtured by the angels, the mothers, the aunties, the big mamas, the nanas, right? The TT. They all work together in harmony, right? And this was the great disruption of the family to break that sisterhood up so they can impose debauchery and wickedness across the planet. And the only way you can do that is by usurping and villainizing the feminine. Right? So we come in as see, that's what my daddy was like.
So she knew.
But I was only like maybe like 6 or 7 years old. So I don't know what she's talking about. Right? And then they have this butter. It's called Land O'Lakes.
That's my mom's favorite butter.
Yeah. She pointed to the lady because there used to be a lady sitting on the lake with the sun shining on her. And she's like, now my mama was like this.
Oh my God.
She told me. I didn't know what she was talking about. I'm like, shorty, I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, the early childhood, the parents is teaching you critical information in what they call an off-the-cuff statement. Most people let that stuff go.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When I asked my father if we was from Africa, he said, I don't know where I'm from.
He didn't have any connection. Yeah.
Yeah, but he knew. His mama is native, so he knew.
Yeah. Well,
and he used to tell us about his grandmama who was a native who had hair down to her ankles.
That's right. That's right.
That's a status symbol in the tribes.
It is.
They don't just let their hair grow down there like to their ankles like that unless you got a certain rank.
That's right. Because hair is a frequency. It picks up frequencies. It's an antenna. Yeah.
So my mama had this thing where she hated all the girls in the family to cut their hair because she felt like they was diminishing their rank.
That's deep.
And then, like, my sister cut her hair, my mama had a fit. And she didn't understand it. She still don't understand it because she still see the world out of Western eyes.
Yeah. Well, that's a social, that's a social conditioning that, they purposefully did, especially in the Americas, to all the people. Because when I look at you, I come from the Caribbean, it's really the Caribbean, and we kind of stayed stationed in South America and the Caribbean. But you look like when my girls, I show my girls you, and they said you look like Papa. You look like my dad and my dad's kin. So that's the Taino side. And because we are cousins, because from North America, all of us interfaced with each other, married within each other's family shared a lot of things from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, all the way down into the Caribbean, Haiti, Cuba, islands. We all have, that's why we look similar, because we're all from the Americas. So, we had an awareness of who we were, and we had an awareness of who y'all were. That wasn't ever hidden in our culture. Yeah.
I used to tell people, and they think I'm crazy or that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I used to say our big mamas on the mainland used to send the big mamas on the islands food stuff from the islands that they didn't grow. And they send us the stuff from the islands that we didn't. And that was a common practice.
It was.
Because they always sent delegations. Right? It sent a delegation to Puerto Rico. Well, now it's Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And Haiti,
La Hispaniola, which is Haiti and Dominican Republic. Yeah.
Cuba. So they was, because they have different growing fruits and vegetables from the islands that's different from the mainland. The only common denominator from the bottom of South America to the North Pole is corn.
That's true.
Everybody participated in the corn festivals.
And the maize. Yeah. Different kinds. Like the heirloom corn has the purple, some have the white, the purple, white, and the red. Not that geoengineered corn that is, what they give to us here in the, in the States. Yeah.
So we used to have corn festivals in the Southwest, We had barbecue festivals all through from Louisiana to what's called Florida. What they call Juneteenth, that ain't got nothing to do with the emancipation of slaves. That's a big bald-faced lie.
Yeah, yeah.
Juneteenth was the barbecue festival season. That's why it doesn't have a specific date, because it took up the middle of June, the teen days.
I
Got
didn't.
nothing.
I
If you
don't.
go back to the stories say that somebody rode into Texas and told them that the slaves was free. The problem with that is there wasn't slavery in Texas at that time. That was Mexico.
That's right. Ooh, you know your historical facts. Yes, exactly.
So why? And then when they was taking our family farms and putting us in captivity on the family farms and rebranding them as plantation, and took mama out of Big Mama house and call it the big house, we wouldn't participate. We would leave. And everybody didn't go north. The majority of us went southwest.
You're right.
Now, if you go to, like, if somebody go to Google right now that's watching and they don't know what I'm talking about, all they got to do is type Afro-Mexican.
That's right. That's
right. We was already there, though, because what we told our Aztec, Incas, and Mayans and Olmecs, them was the old Mississippians by another name. Same time, the biggest tribe on the land was the old Mississippians. This is the parent tribe to your 5 civilized tribes, your Washita nations, your Iroquois nations, your Hopi, your Cheyenne. All of these different tribes are offshoots of the old Mississippi. That's the root tribe to the land.
That's right. And we share there's a blood type that's shared amongst those people as well. That references that's fact. Yes.
Okay, now on the East Coast, we had ships that sailed back and forth between what we call now the motherland and the Americas, and for blood diversification reasons, so we don't have birth defects, we intermarried with the royal families on that continent over here. This long before Columbus was even a gleam in his daddy eye. His daddy probably wasn't even born, and we was doing this. Matter of fact, his 7th great grandfather, twice removed, probably wasn't born, and we was doing this. In the BC period, we was sailing ships on the East Coast, making trade with Africa. The original Navy was the Mississippian Guard that guarded the Mississippi River in the Gulf. We don't know that, because we think that we was just some savages, because that's what they told us, and we have no capabilities of construction, but we got castles that they didn't converted into state buildings and prisons all over the land.
Yeah, and also,
and they all before Columbus.
Yeah, and the Moors had technology beyond anything that Europe had ever saw. A lot of that European technology came after they were exposed to the Moors, right? And the Moors were the ones who...
That's who we've been fighting for the last 400 years, 500 years.
Absolutely.
Because the ones in Europe, the ones that's in Europe, right? The ones that was in Europe, they came from the Babylonian Empire. Now, they made converts out of some people called Khazars.
That's right.
And some people that was called Sephardi.
Yep.
If you look in the 12 tribes of Israel, there is no tribe called Khazar, Ashkenaz, or Sephardi. Those are converts.
They're converts, yeah.
Right. Now, the reason they use them,
for political reasons,
that's called the blood shield, to conceal the actual power players behind the scenes. That's where you get your term Rothschild from. Blood shield, the protectors of the Holy Grail lines. But the Holy Grail line is not Jewish. The Holy Grail line is the earthborn, the Idama.
Well, Jewish didn't exist. J didn't exist. There was no J.
Right.
J-E, like Jesus, Jewish. It wasn't in the language at the time. That's further down the line. Yeah.
Right. And then they wasn't called Israelis either.
No.
That's the irony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Israel didn't exist until 1948. So you wasn't calling them Israelis.
No. That was a colonized term created by the Rothschilds. Yes.
Yeah. So that was all Zionist propaganda for domination and global conquest. When they came over here, they had a standing order to not approach the Americas, and they violated it. And that's why they end up sending Columbus over here. Columbus didn't come over here looking for a new trade route. He was looking for a homeland for the exiles from the Spanish Inquisition and the French Revolution. Right? So they getting kicked out of Europe in mass. They got a stopover point in the north of Africa called Al Maghrib. Today we know it as Morocco. Libya, Tunis, right? All the way up to the border of what we call today modern Egypt.
That's why they called America at one point, the capital was Morocco because of that connection.
Right, but what they was talking about, they're not talking about Morocco. Morocco has not been a country but less than like 100 years.
Yeah, it's new.
Right. So who was the ancient Moroccans if Morocco didn't exist in ancient times? See, people don't like to talk about that. They get offended because they've been trapped in the dogmatic web of religion. But the reality of it is this was called the land of Tahuti. Europe and Asia was the land of Isis.
Yes.
Africa and part of southern India was called the Ethiop, or became later known as Ethiopia, which was the land of Prince Ea, commonly known as Enki. It was 3 major regions of the earth during the time of Atlantis. The tribes over here, we didn't care what they did on their own land. They ain't got nothing to do with us over here. Until they tried to impose their will on us.
Absolutely.
And then they conjured my ass up. And here I am.
Resurrected in the times of the reset. Yeah. So let's kind of fast forward in that. Your mind, like your historical like references is like stellar. Like, usually, you get to people and generally they have bits and pieces. You have the full catalog, like from beginning to end, which is nice. It's refreshing. It's refreshing. You're teaching me some things, which is nice. I like to be taught sometimes, you know what I mean? Get some information that like makes my brain like go tweak, you know what I mean? So
I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, Flor.
What'd you say?
I'm standing on the shoulder of giants.
You are. Let's kind of move on to the Americas and how, over the last couple of hundred of years, how things have changed. But, we were kind of bringing in this new, I don't think it's new. We were talking about like, we're bringing a little bit of that galactic. I don't want to even say galactic because it's kind of generic, right? It's really just an interdimensional kind of energy and beings that are connected to each of the realms, right? So when I talked about when you first came in, before I even spoke to you, and energy with me comes first before I even talk to you. And I speak about months ago being connected to beings that were gorillas, ape type beings, right? And during my contact, they came and I was kind of like feeling this ape type energy. And when I was in Brazil living for a bit, I talk about when I was in the jungle, I stayed in the jungle in the middle, in a home in the jungle. And the monkeys, moquecas, would not come towards me. They were frightened of me. They wouldn't come and approach me. They wouldn't touch me. They would run away. They didn't come near the house. And we were dumbfounded. So we figured it was that part of Brazil. So we went to another part of Brazil. It's the same thing. Fast forward now, I realized after I had contact with the gorillas, the ape, the Kong beings, which I know you're connected to. When they came with a little bit of like technology attached to them, almost like the movie. And I found that really interesting. Before I saw the movie, I saw a bit of remnants, meaning that they had some technology that was beyond my comprehension, because they always make it seem like monkeys are remedial, savages, like just some sub-tier group, but it's far from that. And I realized the one monkey that others have reverence to and a little bit of fear of is the gorilla, the Kong being. And because I didn't had some interface with these beings, the moqueca, the monkey in Brazil, I had that energy and they're frightened of that. And it's not really frightened, they just have an understanding that whatever I'm connected to has a little more strength and reverence, and they just kind of keep a distance from that. So with you, because again, it came in a wave with you. It was interesting. It was all night. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I didn't realize it until it happened. I was like, oh Lord. The algorithm on my phone was like gorillas, monkeys, like big things, big mouths over there. I was like, oh, that's right. Okay. And I asked you some questions before to ask you because I'm always interested in your Chinese astrology. And you let me know that your Chinese zodiac is a monkey. Okay. So
Yeah.
you already carrying that energy on you, along with a little bit of, well, a lot of that Scorpion, Scorpion King energy as well. Um, so I want to kind of touch on that a little bit because I was fascinated and I really want to know your take on it. I'm really curious. And I told you I have a curiosity and I've never really talked to you before. So I get to
Mhm.
ask you all the fun questions that I only want to ask you. So,
Okay.
so when we're thinking about the monkey, the gorilla beings, the Hunan, which is really the Hindu god, the gorilla god, can you give us a little information on that god? Because that is something that's here. It's always been here. And I want to kind of touch that with you and then talk about some things that are going on that I think is coming in the field that has to do with those beings.
Okay, so the gorilla key is called the primate key. In every major landmass where there's a river basin forest is called a Congo region. In South America, it's the Amazon. In North America, it's the Mississippi. In Africa, it's the Nile, and it's another river called the Zambezi, I think, that has a Congo basin, right? This is the symbolism um, in totem animal magic. The gorilla symbolizes the father that looks over the family, right? And that's what's called the gorilla key. We also call the gorilla key the fuck it key. And what that means is when you did everything reasonably possible for you to do, just say fuck it. Because then now you let the universe have it, and the universe is going to make the adjustments to whatever errors you had and correct it and solve the problem for you. So when you get to Hanuman, right, Hanuman literally translates into English as handyman.
Yeah.
And his reputation is Hanuman completes all tasks, no task too big, no task too small. If you want the problem solved, you give it to the Hanuman,
Mm.
right? In China, he's called Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, right? And the Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, the legends say he was trapped in the Stone Mountain for 500 years until Titicaca came and spoke the sacred incantation to release him.
Mm.
Where else do you hear something about something being hewn from a mountain? Book of Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
The final blow to the Babylonian Empire. A single stone hewn from the side of the mountain. The side of the mountain is symbolic to the government, right? Mountains represent governments in the biblical literary metaphor. So one individual will be separated from the rest of the society in order to solve the problem of bringing down the Babylonian Empire by striking the feet of iron and clay.
Mm. Which is,
Right.
I got it. Wait, just because when you said that, the clay, you said say that again, that last thing you said?
The stories say that a single stone was hewn from the side of the mountain
Yeah.
and it struck the Babylonian Empire in the feet, made of iron and clay.
Interesting. Because the Jewish people call people golem, which are like clay people.
Yeah,
And
Gulam is the fabricated human with the incantation to the forehead to animate him.
mm,
Right. This is why in law human beings are called monsters.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. That's what they're talking about. A made being, a being made from the dirt of the earth, a Gulam.
Golem, yeah. Why I mentioned that, as you said, the feet and then the mountains, because Mountain of Hermon over in Syria was just conquered by the Jewish people, Israelis. And it's interesting that you said that. I'm just, go ahead.
You got to also remember Mount Hermon is supposed to be the place where Simyaza and his cohorts made the agreement to subjugate the people of the earth.
Yes, yes.
Well, these were in the Sumerian tablets, those were called Igigi.
Yes.
Okay, now you had another mountain over there, they call it Sinai. CNAI. Sin, when they call you a sinner, they telling you that you are a practitioner of Babylonian rites of sin. Why do they call them the rites of sin? They was written by a Babylonian son of Enlil named Ninursin. And anybody practicing these blood rituals, money magic, sex magic, according to the Babylonian tradition, is a perpetual sinner.
Mm.
Because you born in sin. I mean, you born into these customs and you don't know what you practicing. To be sure that you a sinner, they make sure you practice something called a Eucharist or a communion. That's a simulated blood ritual.
The Catholics, ways of the Catholic, you take the flesh is the wafer and the blood of Christ is the wine. Yes.
Simulated cannibalism.
Absolutely.
That's a blood rite ritual. It's not haphazard. They know what they doing.
Absolutely.
They not gonna do it the same as you gonna do it, because they just they got the little priest up there. He don't know what he doing. He think he really following something, but the Pope know what's up.
I know that's right.
Used to be popes. Now that robot that they calling the Pope, now he know what's up. He's a whole android that they put under the bed at night.
They fold him up and put him under and just take him out and turn on the battery. They
don't even use him on a day-to-day basis. They probably use him a couple times a month.
They're trying to conserve energy, Rod. We're in that green energy time. That's what we're doing.
Conservation of energy, energy conservation. Anyway, so the legend of the Monkey King Hanuman, okay, when he was in the form of Sun Wukong, he was unruly, difficult to control. So the Buddha gave Tipikaka a ring to put on his head to block his psychic abilities, so she can control him. If she say a certain incantation, the ring crushes his head energetically and stops him from doing whatever he's doing.
Is that the reason why people wear crowns, metal crowns? Is it a form of mind control programming? Is that why or no? Okay, just go ahead. I'm sorry.
The crown is that's a Babylonian symbol as well of rulership. Over here, we didn't use gold crowns. We used stuff related to nature.
Yeah, feather, pine cones, things of that nature.
And animal skins.
Yeah. Horns.
Right. So the chiefs depend, what they wore for identifiers depend on what was their tribal totem animal and what was the root tribe they was from. Like when you see Big Tookie, that big 6'4", 280-pound, all muscled with that big old afro, this is so his soldiers can see him on the battlefield. No matter where they at, they know where he at. And as long as they see him, they gonna fight to the bitter end. You can't stop one of them from fighting. Those are called Afro chiefs. Right? That's an old Mississippian practice. Those were tribes that used to live in tree scaffoldings across the South. They chopped down all the trees to get them out of the trees.
My grandmother actually she was 104, and she mentioned something about them people living in the trees. And something about that's why some of the trees were burned down, or they did milling at the time in that area specifically because of those people. She mentioned that years ago when I was a little girl. Yeah.
And then the ones that lived in the swamp, they wore animal skins, mainly the alligator. They came from, in Egypt, it's known as the Sobek priests. They used to ride alligators in the combat in Florida. That's why they started gator baiting the children, to make the gators interested in the flavor of the people that they didn't eat.
Oh, I know that's right. Woo.
They even have old pictures of us. They didn't change and whitewash the imagery now, where these people that rode the alligators is pale faced. But that's not true. That was us. And the big mamas used to get the what they call the anointed oil from the alligator. It's the sacred elixir. It's a gold color oil, look like olive oil, to anoint the next chief. In spiritual practice, you know that you can use what's called a reasonable substitute when the actual thing is not available. They came over here as vampires, bloodsuckers, and cannibals.
They still are.
We was already here wearing wolves, so they called us werewolves. And they say we look like kin, but we not, so they called us lichens.
God, Rod.
So they tell us a story in the movies, and they called the movies the Twilight, where the ones that you see native turning into wolves, but the ones that came from Europe is all vampires. They telling you the story.
They do. The natives were the wolves. Yes, yes. And the others
And
were the vampires. Yeah. And they
right. Now, this is how you know that the vampires wasn't pale. When they got into the sun, their skin glistened like crystals.
Yeah.
That's called prismatic melanin, according to Dr. Phil Valentine. But they can trick you with cinema by whitewashing the characters, so you don't even know what prismatic melanin is, so you will never make the correlation. You see, a good example is Brother Kalai. Brother Kalai up in Philadelphia, in the summertime when he's standing in the sun, you can literally see it look like he got tiny crystals in his skin.
I've seen people like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But he wanted Earthborn.
Yeah.
Right. But a lot of the stuff we don't know about our history, and it's been told to us in a upside down, backwards fashion to confuse us as to who we are. So we will never exercise our birthright to reclaim and restore might, justice, balance, equilibrium back to the land, the people. In order to do this, you need a certain type of government. We call it the tribal government, the great law.
Yes.
The way of the mother. We don't call it patriarchy, we call it the way of the mother. The way of the mother became Europeanized as a term called matriarchy. Yeah. But it literally the way of the mother. The mother is the nurturer in the household, but she can't nurture if she at war.
Well, also they decapitate her from the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. She's no longer even present in the prayers or the concept of being in that.
But she's ever present. She's just concealed. That's why they call it the concealed mother, or the hidden goddess in masonry. Hold on, let me show you something.
Yeah, y'all give Rod Hayes, like, he is, Fleur Ronan is like in like intellectual heaven. He is such a wonderful, like, wisdom bearing. Oh wait, Freemasonry and the Hidden Goddess. I've never seen that book before, Rod.
It's just one of them. It's Freemason and the Hidden Goddess. She's hidden in plain sight, though, and I'm gonna tell you how to find her. Get you a Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible and look up the name Jesus. Remember, the letter J, 500 years old. Now, go to the laws of grammar. Write the word according to phonetics. And you will come up.
Jesus.
It's no Y. It's Greek, not Hebrew.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah.
The New Testament was not written in Hebrew.
You're right.
It was originally written in Greek, and it's IESOUS.
Oh my God.
Now look, unto us a child is given, unto us a son is born, and we shall call his name Emmanuel. How many times did they call him Emmanuel in the story?
My mind is blown. Oh my God. What? So Emmanuel was the name previous to what they perceive as Jesus. That was never Jesus, was just a
The
fictitious.
story of Isis and Horus told to us by a fiction writer by the name of Josephus Flavius. It's just that when the Constantinian Nicene Council got a hold of it, they had to try to figure out how to separate the mother, the most important character in the Bible, away from the son. So they give all the glory to the son, and it's gonna piss the son off because you denying his mama was rightfully hers.
That's right.
And they teaching these people to follow Emmanuel under the mama name Isis, but they gave it a J in order to confuse the mind and the psyche. But when they gave it the J, they called it the fish hook, because I shall make you fisher of men. And ain't no man gonna catch more men than a woman. Let that sink in. Ain't no man gonna catch more men than a woman.
Y'all, you gotta please give a 13 to the, oh my God, this is amazing. I never
13 is
saw
the
that.
queen mother's seal, the mother of the
That's
king.
right. That's right.
But the king had to emerge as a prince first before he ascended the throne as the king. And there is no man that's a kingmaker. Every kingmaker is a woman.
Absolutely. Yes.
You can't be the king unless you crowned by the woman. Go back and look at David when he was laying in his deathbed and one of his sons declared himself the king. And Bathsheba came to him and said, you know, your son that ran around out there, he think he done just